Welcome to another episode of Murder, Mysteries, and More. My name is Kaylee.
And my name is Desi.
Today we'll be talking about the disappearance of Sage Smith.
Sage Smith was born on December 13, 1992. Her parents are Latosha, Dennis, and Dean Smith. Sage is transgender. She was originally born as Deshaud Smith. Sage did not have the greatest childhood. Her parents divorced when she was young. Not only was the divorce difficult for her, but her father went to prison for a drug charge.
When Sage's father left prison, her parents remarried. She had step-siblings as well. Growing up, Sage lived low-income housing right outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. Part of her childhood, she lived with her grandmother. Her grandmother's name was Loletta. Her nickname was Cookie.
Unfortunately, at one point, Sage was taken to foster care, which made things worse. Sage came out as gay as a teenager. Her grandmother was supportive of her, told her she would love her no matter what. However, her father was not so accepting, which in return strained their relationship. Sage was bullied.
There was one instance that was really bad at her high school where a bunch of guys peed on her jersey, which is absolutely horrible. Eventually, her dad came in terms with her sexuality and identity. This made Sage and her father grow closer. Sage was the first one in her family to graduate high school.
After graduation, Sage attended beauty school. During college, she worked as a salon assistant and she braided hair on the side. March 2012, Sage moved out of her own into an apartment. Her roommates were Shakira and Aubrey. Both of them were trans. November 9, 2012, Sage came out publicly as transgender.
According to Sage's friends and roommates, she was known as a social butterfly. She loved to dance. Everything was going well until her roommates and her struggled to pay rent. Her roommates could not find anything paying more than minimum wage. At this time, it was also legal for businesses to discriminate against one's gender identity.
Get creative to pay the bills. They decided to throw parties and charge people. They also charged people to host parties at their apartment. They posted ads on Craigslist. Unfortunately, this sometimes caused some issues. Sage had a sexual encounter with a married man and his wife found out. Obviously, she flipped out. The guy assaulted Sage.
Luckily, after Sage filed a report, the guy was immediately arrested and charged for assaulting her. About a week later, they decided to throw a birthday party for Shakira's birthday. A random person shows up to the party, says they want to fight Sage because of some dude. The fight gets out of control, police are called, but nobody gets arrested.
Shakira and Sage have an argument over the fight, so Shakira decides to leave the apartment. The next day is the anniversary day of her father leaving prison, so Sage calls him, then asks him for money. It is not clarified why she asked him for money. Sage had a date that night.
Sage tells her roommate Aubrey she's going on a date but does not say who. Aubrey takes a nap, then wakes up hours later. She sees that Sage is still gone, so she calls Sage. No answer. Aubrey is a little concerned. She calls Sage's grandmother. Her grandmother says if Sage is still gone by the morning, to report to the police.
Sage is not home. Aubrey calls Shakira. Tells her that Sage is still missing. Shakira is concerned. They call the police and file a missing persons report. The grandmother has not told anyone in the family because she does not want to freak out Sage's step-siblings. They found out by Facebook and everyone was concerned.
One of the main reasons why the family was so concerned because Thanksgiving was the next day. It was very unlike Sage to not be there for the holidays. 5:15 p.m. on November 20th, Sage sent a text message. When are you leaving? 5:20 p.m. The unknown number replies, I already did. I'm at Hampton Inn. 6:08, unknown number asks, where are you at?
6:12, Sage says, I am standing here. Where are you? 6:18 to 6:37, Sage is talking to a friend on the phone. During her phone call with a friend, the unknown number, Hey, I'm here. Where are you? I'm waiting for you. I'm giving you 5 more minutes. 6:27. Bye. You stood me up. 6:35. Sage runs into her stepsister Kiera.
After chatting with her sister, Sage walks down Main Street towards the Amtrak station. This was the last place Sage was physically seen. Sage's father posts the phone number so he can figure out who it belongs to. It belonged to Eric McFadden. Apparently, Eric and Sage had sex. Eric paid her to not tell anyone because he did not want to tell anyone about his sexuality. He had a girlfriend.
Police checked cameras but couldn't get any evidence because they were only live streams. What is extremely disappointing about this case was the lack of media coverage. More media coverage would help find answers and where Sage is. November 24th, police got another report for a missing person. Eric's girlfriend called the police to report Eric is missing.
Police tell her that they are looking for Eric as a possible suspect in this case. The police went to her apartment to interview her and did not find any signs of Eric. They figured she was telling the truth. The next night, she gets a call from Eric that he is in DC and asks for some money. She told Eric that the police were looking for him.
Days pass by and the police go to Eric's apartment to look through his belongings. They found a receipt from CVS. Police go to CVS and look at footage, and sure enough, Eric was in town 2 days after she went missing. Police felt like he was not really a suspect of interest. November 27th, he calls the police and says that he was supposed to meet Sage at the Amtrak, but she was not there.
Police and him made an agreement to meet in town on November 29th. That day rolls around and his girlfriend calls the police. She says that he says he will not be coming back to town. Then Eric calls his girlfriend and explains the truth. He says that Sage was blackmailing him into giving him money, that they never had sex. Then when they met up, Sage had a lot of enemies. Then some people showed up. He kept walking but never looked back.
To this day, Sage is still missing. In 2017, this case was officially listed as a homicide, even though there hasn't been a confirmed body found. We hope to find answers. Why did she ask her dad for money? She could have asked her dad for money because she may have been hard up on bills. She could have needed money for bills, considering that her and her roommates were already struggling enough to pay rent, and they had to do things such as renting their apartment out for parties, or hosting parties, or charging people to come to these parties. So even though they were doing these things and maybe they had minimum wage jobs, they still didn't have enough money to pay their bills and everything. That could be one reason why she asked him for money.
Yeah, I think that probably is one of the reasons why, because her dad and her were super close, and maybe she didn't tell him why, like exactly what the money was for, because maybe she was embarrassed because like she just graduated high school and felt like she should be able to pay the bills. But it's really hard when you first start out to live on your own. Rent has been going up, and even with like roommates and even working at a salon, I know a lot of people that work at salons are really underpaid, and it's definitely hard to pay bills, so that could be one reason. I don't think it would be like any other reason, like for a date or anything. I think that it's probably for something good, such as renting their apartment, because obviously they had minimum wage jobs. They had to do things that were probably not the safest things to do in order to get money. Why did Sage not tell her roommate Aubrey who she was going on a date with? It's noted that Sage usually tells her roommate who and where she is going to be with for safety reasons. I think one of the main reasons why she might not have told them, she didn't want Aubrey to tell Shakira who she was going to see, because she didn't want Shakira jealous because it was the same guy that they liked. Another reason could be is maybe like it wasn't anything like super serious, or like he was just new to her and she didn't know like exactly what relationship she had with this person. So that could be another reason why she didn't tell Aubrey. There's a bunch of different reasons.
Another reason is it could have been somebody that they knew but wasn't completely out of the closet, or had a girlfriend that they kept as their kind of undercover stuff. Or it could have been a total stranger that she just didn't want to tell them about because she was afraid that maybe they would judge her.
Yeah, that's true.
Sage is transgender. Could someone have committed a hate crime against her? Very, very possible that somebody could have committed a crime against her. Unfortunately, when it comes to anything, any type of race, any type of sexuality. Hate crimes are more common, unfortunately, just because, everybody has their different views on things and everybody doesn't always accept that you're transgender, what sexuality, or somebody she knew or somebody she hung around. Even Eric, him not being out of the closet, he had a girlfriend, could have committed this crime against her, and it could have been an accident and all that stuff, but them going after her because she is transgender, that would make it a hate crime.
Yeah, and this was 2012, so this was before gay marriage was even legal. So someone could have very easily committed a hate crime against her. There's people that hate people for no reason whatsoever or for the dumbest reasons. So someone could have very easily committed a hate crime against her. There was a lot of people that did want to fight Sage a lot, and I think that they were jealous of her because so many people loved who she was, and she was a great person, and she was really enjoying life at the time and doing really well for herself. So someone could have gotten, mad about that or jealous of her and killed her. Is Eric telling the truth? His text messages show they did not meet up, but he later on tells his girlfriend otherwise. So it's definitely a little bit confusing because in the text messages that they're texting back and forth, it basically implies that Eric has been waiting for her, the Amtrak, and Sage is not showing up. She's talking to her friend and he's getting frustrated. But then whenever police do want to meet up with him, he doesn't want to meet up with the police, and he tells his girlfriend, well, yeah, actually we did meet up, but I don't want the police to think that I'm involved. And he states he never had sex with Sage and that Sage was the one blackmailing him, that they did meet up and then some other people showed up to kill Sage or to fight Sage, and that he just looked the other way and walked away. So I don't necessarily think that Eric is telling the truth because he has two different stories. One of them's gotta be more closely related to the truth, but I don't think at first for sure that he was telling the truth. And he could have also sent those messages as well to make it seem like he had an alibi at that time. But it is weird how he will say one thing, like he didn't meet up with Sage at all, and then tell his girlfriend another thing. So it's definitely a little bit suspicious. I really do not know what to believe at this point.
I feel like he could be telling the truth about Sage maybe blackmailing him, but I feel like if you're blackmailing someone, there's a reason to it. So maybe he's lying about him and Sage never having sex or anything like that. She could have been blackmailing him for other reasons as well, but I feel like he's definitely not telling the entire truth.
Yeah, I think also, if he was really very confident and with his answers, I feel like he would be totally fine meeting up with the police, and it's clearly obvious that he is scared of the police. Now, there are some reasons for him to be. If he really didn't do anything, he definitely doesn't want to seem like he was involved, but there's definitely something missing there.
Why did Eric say he was going to run away? Could he have been involved? Eric said that he was going to run away, of course. I feel like he could have, because he could have been involved in her death. He could have been the person even responsible for her death. Or he could even possibly know who exactly killed her and didn't want to end up being the next person who died, or just didn't want to get involved at all. It is a little suspicious that he said he was going to run away. If you're not guilty or hiding from something, you usually don't say anything like that. Anything's possible. Like I said, he could be involved, or he could know who exactly killed him.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why Eric did say he was going to run away. The first one being that the police in the beginning were definitely looking as Eric as a suspect, so he could have not even been involved in the killing of her, but if he was telling the truth that he saw some people like come up to her, potentially fight her or kill her, maybe he actually witnessed people beating up her, and maybe she did blackmail him. Maybe not. He did witness her death, but he didn't want to come off as suspicious, so he ran away. And also, if you are a witness to a crime, you really should go and report what you have seen to the police. Like, it's completely wrong to witness someone dying, getting like murdered, beat up on, and not go to the police and tell them what you saw. But he could have also very easily ran away because he was involved. Most people who are criminals, if they want to get away with murder, the first thing they're going to do is try to run away, get away as fast as possible, change their identity, change the color of their hair, maybe get eye contacts, because they don't want to be caught. And during like the first few days, that if you are going to get away with murder, that is the time to run away. He could have easily ran away because he was the one that murdered her. Where is Eric? To be honest, Eric could be in a number of places. Did he really go to DC? I don't know. Because I feel like if he did go to DC, DC is a very like populated area. So that's probably not the best place to go if you're running away from a crime. So I'm thinking that he probably went somewhere off grid. She was from Virginia, so that would probably be anywhere. I'd say definitely, especially in the desert. He could have even gone all the way to Alaska or Canada or Mexico. There's so many different possibilities he could have gone, but it's definitely probably somewhere off grid. The only thing though is, how is he getting all the money to live off grid? Because after a while it's like not very cheap. So I'm wondering like if he changed his identity or something, or if he wasn't involved at all and he was running away from a person that he knew killed her, and that person was going to be their next victim. So he could have also ran away because of that.
I feel like also he could have had somebody's help with, if he did change his identity and all that stuff. He also could have had help relocating to a different state or city, so that way the authorities couldn't find him.
And also, like, they didn't have a whole lot of information from his apartment because they did look into his belongings. And this is also something that I found out when I was watching a video about this case. The police are actually able to have landfill searches. They did search for anything that would have belonged to him in the trash at the landfills. I did not know that's a thing. Didn't find anything. If he is involved, he did cover up his tracks pretty good, and the police would have a really difficult time finding him because there's really nothing in his apartment.
Could Eric's girlfriend have been involved in her disappearance? It is very possible for Eric's girlfriend to be a suspect in all of this. Eric could even be possibly covering for her, with the fact that Eric said that he was being blackmailed. With the rumor that Eric had sex with Sage, his girlfriend could have gotten very jealous, or she could have completely lost it and confronted Sage and accidentally killed her. She could have confessed to Eric, and Eric could have said it was him, covered up for her and all that stuff, and that's why he might have ran away. It's definitely something to think about for sure. Anybody can do anything. Anybody is really a suspect in this case, but I definitely think Eric's girlfriend has something to do with all of this.
Yeah, I think definitely that she could be involved, because I also do want to mention that she did warn Eric about the police looking for him, so that could have definitely like really given him a head start, and that actually did not help him, because like that actually did not help the police at all, because that basically, you know, if the police are looking after you and if you know you're guilty or you know something about it, obviously going back to the police department is just like, it's not gonna help you at all. Definitely like she helped him get a head start in that way. Also, like, yeah, she didn't have, she told what she knew, like, they interviewed her and everything, but she didn't tell a whole lot of things, and she could have been a really good liar. And like you said, with all the rumors going around that Eric and Sage had sex and that they were a thing, she could have been very well easily jealous of Sage, and she could have not liked Eric's sexuality. Not only went after Sage, but went after Eric as well. It could have been Eric and his girlfriend. They realized this whole mess and they just thought, okay, we're just going to kill her. Her roommate started using her stuff after she disappeared. Could they have been involved? It is a little bit weird to, after someone's missing, that you're gonna go and use their stuff, like their makeup and stuff. Personally, if I knew someone, like I was friends with someone and they went missing, I wouldn't go around using their clothes and everything. That would just feel wrong to me. And I do want to mention that Shakira and Sage had gotten into an argument before Sage felt like Shakira didn't really stick up for her when that whole fight broke out at the party, and they could have been involved. Maybe the whole reason why Sage didn't tell Aubrey who she was seeing was because they knew that guy and maybe they had a thing with Eric, or they liked him, or they did not like him, whatever. They were just mad at her because she was seeing him, decided to kill her. But there isn't a whole lot of evidence pointing towards them, really. But it is a little bit weird that after she disappeared, they would start using her stuff. That just feels wrong to me.
Could she still be alive? If so, where? If she is alive, she could be really anywhere. She could be in another state, another city. She could be even in another country for all we know. But I truly don't believe she is alive. And I think that enrolling this in 2017 as a homicide, even though they haven't found her body, is the best way to go. Because I would love to have hope that she is alive, but after being missing for so long, I feel like she truly is probably dead.
Yeah, I highly doubt that she's still alive. After a couple years go by and a person's still missing, usually, most of the time, it ends up resulting as they're either never going to be found or they're found dead. It becomes more and more unlikely. It's really crucial within the first 48 hours to find a missing person, or even within the first month. And the fact that they didn't find her at all, and that there are some suspicious people that could be involved in killing her. Also, 2017, they did rule it as a homicide even though they did not find a body, and I think that's very likely what happened. Because she had been sex trafficked, many transgender women have been sexually assaulted. Yes, she could have very easily been sex trafficked. Sex trafficking is very common in America. Even still to this day, it's crazy. So that is possible, because when they were going to throw these parties, Sage would post an ad under casual encounters on Craigslist. And to some people, that means different things. And some of those things are yikes. Somebody could have seen that ad and thought they meant something else, and there's a bunch of sickos out there. That's what could have happened. She could have been sex trafficked, and they could have dumped her body in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, sex trafficking is, like you said, still around. It's common, especially those who are transgender, because I feel like a lot of transgender women, in this case Sage, are having a minimum wage job that didn't pay her bills, and she had to get Craigslist for ads and all that stuff. She could have very easily been tricked by one of those ads, and they could have very easily taken her and sex trafficked her. What do you think happened to her? I think that somebody truly murdered Sage. whether it was a hate crime or maybe she was sex trafficked and it went wrong, or if it was purely accidental. I do believe that her case is definitely a homicide.
I feel like with finding out who, we definitely would need to find out where Eric was to get more information. I think that would definitely help add more information. Even if he isn't involved at all, it would still give us a lot more information into her whereabouts or what could have exactly happened. It could have been somebody she knew, but it could have also totally been a stranger, because with Craigslist, you have to be really, really careful out there, because there's a lot of people posing as people who they're not, like catfishing people, and that's when things go really wrong. It could have also very easily been a hate crime, maybe somebody from her old high school, because like she was bullied during high school, and what those boys did to her jersey was absolutely horrible. So it's definitely clear that someone murdered her, but there's still a lack of information to determine who's guilty.
Thank you for listening to Murders, Mysteries, and More. Remember to always keep your eyes open. You never know when someone's creeping.